Welcome to Tanya. Good morning. Michael in Germany, good afternoon. Or it's cold. Oh. Terrence in Melbourne, Australia, good night. Going to sleep with Tanya on your mind, which is amazing, unbelievable. John in North Carolina, shalom. Lynn is with us in Long Island, good morning. We have Chava Celeste in Boulder, Colorado, welcome. Denya, Rachel, South Carolina, shalom. Ken from Lagos, Nigeria, Kenya. Daphne in South Carolina. Good morning. Oh, Mary, welcome. Deborah in Kitchener, a fellow Canadian. David is with us in California, while Joseph is all the way in New Jersey. Davening for those, hurricane, yes. Della or Miriam from Boston, welcome. Miriam, welcome. Former Montrealer. Nancy, thank you for joining. Davida is with us, and Liba. We have from Sydney, Australia, Louise. We have from Philippines. We have Yofi from Canada. Nizra from Arkansas. Akoy is in Peru. Rena in Colorado. Elise in Georgia. Welcome, Miriam in Boston. Thank you for joining. Eugenia is in Calgary. Another Canadian. Welcome. Yan is in Mexico. Jackie in Charlotte, North Carolina. Beautiful. Susie is in the UK. All right. Deborah in New York City. Shalom. Loredana, in Calgary. Another Calgarian. Very nice. Liba and Davida in New York. Okay. We continue in the 20th letter. This letter written by the Alter Rebbe several days before his passing. It brings us to a new appreciation of a material physical world that its source in the divine, with a very detailed explanation, that as a result gave to the Chassidim of the Alter Rebbe a greater fervor to perform mitzvahs, material, physical actions of mitzvahs, with greater enthusiasm, appreciating that indeed in the very physical act of the mitzvah, in the material world, there is a deeper divine connection than we ever thought. It's not just a means to spirituality. It is a connection to the Ein Sof, to the limitlessness of God. What we've explained till now, what the Alter Rebbe has explained, is the Ein Sof, the limitlessness of God, is funneled, or a conduit, through the 10 divine attributes that are the power of God's limitation. You have 3 intellectual components of the called Chachma, Bina, V'das, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, and then you have the 6 emotional, and finally Malchus. And as we explained, in the divine attributes, there is light and vessel. There's the vessel that contains the light, similar to body and soul. The body that houses the soul, the light. Everything is that combination, because that's the way it is in the divine attributes that are responsible for creating this world, something from nothing. Not ilava'alo, cause and effect, which is what we are aware and familiar with, is cause and effect. That's the human condition, right? You take something, you take a physical thing and you let go of it. Letting go is a cause. The effect will be, well, this will shatter because of the force of gravity that will bring it down. Or if you push with great velocity, great strength, the effect will be whatever you push will be moved further than if it was just a light push. Cause and effect. Connected, the cause into the effect. The cause becomes part of the effect. Linked together. But that's not how this world is created. This world is created something from nothing. Ex nihilo. Yesh mi'ayin. Where the ayin, the nothingness of God, is nothing because it's no thing. Because it's no thing that we can relate to, no thing that we can apprehend. In today's class, the Alter Rebbe takes us further to explain more specifically how this world is created, the material and the physical of this world is created, that has the capability of being what we call a yesh, a substance thing, not no thing, not lost in our source, like a ray of light in the sun that is only part of the sun and doesn't have its own identity, but where we have our own identity, we are our own substance of being. And this comes from the attribute of Malchus, specifically, Malchus Vatsilos, which means sovereignty, royalty, kingship. So it's principally through this attribute that is responsible for you and I, and the entire physical world. So let's explain. Malchus of Atzilus, which Atzilus is the world of emanation, not a world of creation, but of God's emanation. So in that world, that Malchus of Atzilus goes down and creates something, a separateness in the world of Bria. In Atik, the highest level, which is the pleasure. The pleasure of Malchus is now that it's creating separateness. Why would that be a pleasure? Don't we want connection? Don't we want, No, because there's no king without a nation, which implies a nation meaning separate beings from the king. You can't be a king over your 10 fingers because they're a part of you. You can't even be a king over your 10 sons or one son. You can't be a king over them. Why? Because they're a part of you. Part of, right? The 10 children of the king are part of the king. So now you're choosing the king? Not really much of a choice, right? But the nation, the word Am, which means nation, like Am Yisrael, nation. And the word Am comes from the word Aimimiyos, which means dim-lit coals that are separate. Coals, like when you're making a barbecue, those coals are all separate one from another, and when you cook on the charcoal is when they are now not a flame, but just a dim light, all right, dim fire. That's the best, right? So what does that mean? It refers to the nation of the king that are removed. They're separate entities. So Malchus takes pleasure in bringing from Atzilus into Atik, which is the pleasure of the world of Atik, of Bria, to create now separate entities, in order that ultimately these separate entities that are distinct, a yesh, a substance of them own being, sensing their own reality, ultimately come to recognize that there is a king, God Almighty, and that they freely choose to choose the king. Right? That's what is the attribute of Malchus. Now, furthermore, Malchus, royalty, sovereignty, kingship, we'll call it Malchus, okay, but that's what it is also, as the king rules with his word, God creates with his word. So it's the breath of his mouth, it's the words that he creates, right? Let there be light. Those words create light. Let there be a firmament, creates the heavens. Let the grass sprout forth, creates the grass sprouting. This is through speech. And in speech, in order to have variants of different letters that make different words that make, therefore, are a vital force, which again, the king rules with his word, God creates and rules with his word. Malchus, that's the attribute of Malchus. So there's 5 organs that we use for speech: our mouth, teeth, tongue, palate, and larynx, that make different letters. So you use primarily your mouth to make the letter Pei, or Mem. You use primarily your teeth for Shin, Lamed for your tongue, and a Ches is your larynx. And your palate is the letters Aleph, and so on. And I was bringing out over here that the diversity in creation comes through the various letters that come together and form words of divine energy that is coming and flowing from Malchus of Atzilus. And hence Malchus is therefore called the world of revelation. Because what is it revealing? The power of the Ein Sof, of the limitlessness of God. How? Through creating something out of nothing. Yesh mi'ayin. Not ilavalo, not cause and effect, right? Cause and effect is not how is emerging from the attribute of Malchus everything in the world of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. With this, we can also understand now an interesting idea. There's a concept that Sefer Yetzirah says that their beginning is wedged in the end. What does it mean the beginning is wedged in the end? The beginning and the end have a relationship, right? So, because in the beginning is what you want to be the end result. In the beginning, that's what your initial thought is. So in divine levels, what's beginning? The first is called Chokhmah. It's the first of the 10 divine attributes. But first is not beginning. There's something before the first. There's a beginning beyond the first. So where's the beginning in the divine? And here we're talking about beginning means not Ein Sof, because Ein Sof has no beginning and no end. Right? The limitlessness of God. So we're speaking here about a beginning. Well, what could be a beginning? So the beginning is called Keser, is called crown. And it's beyond Chokhmah. Chokhmah is intelligence, right? Is wisdom that's in the head. Crown is on top of it. It's beyond it. Chokhmah is the beginning, or the first, of the 10 attributes that are now the limiting power of God. Now, to come to a limiting power of God, from an infinite power of God, what we need is an interface between infinite and finite, where the infinite and the finite coalesce, where they come together. Keser, crown. Crown. That's where it comes together. And the divine level called Keser, crown. What's in Keser is divine pleasure and divine will And there is the end of the Ein Sof, of the infinite, so to speak, and the beginning of the finite divine. They come together. That becomes the interface that now allows for the finite divine attributes to emerge. But that beginning, we said, is wedged in the end. Where's the end then? Where's the end in the divine? You got it. Malchus of Atzilus. Sovereignty, royalty, kingship that we're speaking about, which is the power vested in it to create something from nothing, to create me and you. That there should be a king with a nation. Separateness. So it's vested. How? Because the beginning, Keser, which means crown, where does it find its, where is it wedged? Where does it reveal the power of the limitlessness of God, which Keser is the interface? It's wedged in the end. Malchus is the last of the 10 divine attributes. Oh, that's interesting. Malchus is king. And what is the king wearing? Keser, the crown. Now we understand the concept of why a king wears a crown. Because that crown is the interface of something that's greater than them, beyond them. That they are only a reflection of the ultimate divine, of God. Now, that's real kingship. Not, Henry VIII was not a king. He was a tyrant. Not a real sense of king. So, only a king wears a crown. So therefore, only Malchus has the power of the interface of the infinite and the finite that they coalesce together to giving the power of to it, wedged in Malchus, to be able to give it the power of the Ein Sof in able to create something from nothing. Yesh mi'ayin. Wow. Now, this is especially so since Malchus is responsible for the creation of souls, enabling the souls, not just physical creation, but souls to also feel that they're separate entities in the world of Bria. Notwithstanding that they are separate entities, but yet they are still retain a godliness to them, as that's the way of souls. And this is called birth. This is called birth. In other words, Malchus is giving birth, not just to the physical reality of this world, but also to souls. Like, this is the concept of splitting the sea. This is the concept of that the souls create, there's a union. There's a union between the masculine of the divine and the feminine of the divine. And that comes as a result of the supernal mother, which is called Bina. Bina now brings birth to, or a union, through the union brings birth to, and the growth, a gestation of Zah and Malchus, the 6 emotions with Malchus, with sovereignty, with royalty, in the womb of the supernal mother called Bina, also feminine. And then Bina so there's another takes place before that between Chachma and Bina, Chachma being male, Bina being female, a union there that creates the actual seed for the birth. Then there's the gestation and the birth. All of these, ultimately, the gestation and the birth, as we see in birth of a child, we always feel that it's divine. We always feel that it is a lofty, amazing thing, even though it happens every day, every moment. But yet it's something very divine. Because its root is in the divine. Malchus of Atzilus is also mother, but the lower level of mother. Bina is the higher level, supernal mother. It is the lower mother. It is the nether mother. And it is where the gestation takes place of the souls. And the birth. And hence, through it truly reveals the Ein Sof, the limitlessness of God. So, let's recap over here some kind of difficult Kabbalistic ideas that we presented. Make sure we have a takeaway, we have something that we can digest. So Malchus, it is the specific attribute of the divine, the power of limitation of God that creates not just limitation, but a sense of our own substantial being of independence. Because Malchus, royalty, kingship, sovereignty, king can only be a sovereign king over people that are separate from him and that they choose him freely. That's why Mashiach will be a king. The people will choose him. He's not going to force them. If Mashiach has to force you, that means he hasn't taught you. He hasn't brought you the teachings that should inspire you. Right? As this is a prelude to Mashiach's coming, is the teachings of Tanya and Chassidus. What are these teachings doing for you? Are they forcing you? No. They're compelling you from within that you want to choose Hashem as your king. That's what it's doing, actually, right? So, let's get. So that's the Malchus that's responsible to create. Furthermore, Malchus is the power of speech, God's speech. As a king rules through speech, that's the metaphor. So it's the power of God that the letters they flow from him, are the energy force, the light that brings into being us. In what manner? Something from nothing, not cause and effect. Furthermore, in this act of Malchus creating, it also reveals the limitlessness of God. Specifically because it gives birth and gestation to souls that ultimately are that the souls, right? There it's speaking in spiritual terms, it's revealing, but as a child is born in this world, we have a sense of awe. We have a sense of something, that's revealing Ein Sof, God, the limitlessness of God. So in spiritual terms, not only is Malchus creating through speech, physicality, material, physical world, but it's also the source. The inner aspect of Malchus is revealing the Ein Sof of God through bringing gestation and birth two souls in the spiritual realm, and of course, ultimately, here it's speaking of the spiritual realm, but ultimately, how it will reflect in the physical world. That's Malchus. All right, I hope I was clear on all of this because it's pretty heavy-duty stuff. So, Miriam, what you gather, two question marks before you ask a question so I can make sure. Malchus is feminine, yes. Maternal, yes. That's the idea of separateness between creator and creator is necessary in order for us to understand the power of creation ex nihilo, yes. Also the idea of separateness is necessary for the creature to be a subject of the kingship of the creator, yes. Very good, yes. So this is where freedom of choice comes in, of course, because we're created in such a way from Malchus, right? That Malchus, royalty, implies a nation that is freely choosing to choose the king, not force, right? A tree is forced. An animal's forced to be an animal, right? Notice, by the way, no animal has changed over the last 5,000 years, right? Lion can't wake up one day and say, I want to be a pussycat. It's going to be a king of the jungle. Why? Because it's doesn't have the same sense of separateness that we do. Although it is a physical thing that's created, and therefore does have that separateness, but not to the degree that we have, that in our self-awareness, because it doesn't have self-awareness. It just is. We have self-awareness, and in that self-awareness we could choose self over the king. That's where the freedom of choice comes in. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Davida, this is why Hashem was angry with the Jewish people, wanted a king like other liberators. Yes, he was angry because we shouldn't have a king like other nations. We have a king. As the Jewish people need to have a king. Yes, absolutely correct. Thank you. Okay, folks, amazing. All right. We're going to do some Rambam after this, so please come and join us. I want to wish everybody a chasima tova, a gmar chasima tova should be sealed, final sealing for an amazing year. Because it's going to be an amazing year, especially because we're going to be learning together. Tanya. Big shout out to my sister, she's on. Beautiful. All right. Thank you for joining. Everyone. And Leora. Thank you. All right, folks. We'll continue our journey together. Have a wonderful day.